Usain Bolt, he texts me, good luck to the Blues. Since 2003, we haven't had a final here. Mick Jagger, he texts me saying good luck to the Blues. James Bond, he texts me saying good luck. David Bowie, oh no, he didn't, he's dead. But anyway, everyone's texting, everyone's waiting for this game. Crusaders are coming, we got this.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Zavance. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.
Tēnā koutou katoa, welcome into the breakdown for another week. We have our finalists, the Crusaders and the Blues, the final that everyone so desperately wanted in the competition. Jeff Wilson, Mills Miliena, Sir John Kerwin, you're happy? Your blacklist of contacts is incredible.
Thank you, yeah. Well, they're all happy because when have we had a game so big?
Well, it was 2015 when the Highlanders went to Wellington to take on the Hurricanes. But I think that's the last time you're talking about two New Zealand sides playing in the final of Super Rugby. I think that's what we've waited for. And Mills, we've almost waited for this game for 2 years because since Beauden Barrett came to Auckland and started playing for the Blues, it kept getting delayed, it kept getting pushed back. COVID came, he went to Japan. It's now on, and they're at home, 40,000 plus. I just hope we get it right in Auckland so it's easy for everyone to enjoy what should be one of the best games of the season.
Oh, I totally agree with you, and I think Aucklanders have waited for this for a very long time. I think they've wanted it more so than anyone across the country. So it's going to be a huge one. Man, I'm looking forward to this one.
You would know, Mills, you were playing when the Blues took home their last proper title, right? The proper title, we don't count.
Oh, don't go there, Kirst. I was having a good day.
Sorry, Jake.
So you're saying that...
Are you counting last year's change?
Totally, I'm counting
Just
everything.
keep smiling, JK, and move on, move forward. Forget
Good
last
point.
year. It is all about this one. You can't tell
all about this week.
This is the real deal. This is it.
This is the best thing since sliced bread, isn't it? Let's talk Super Rugby. With Nurofen available at Chemist Warehouse.
Here's the drop goal. It's charged. Offer. Colin Fussy. Where did you come from? And the Kiwis get their dream final. It's the Blues against the Crusaders next week at Eden Park.
I think Tony Johnson absolutely nailed that moment. Where did you come from? Offer 1 point, but it doesn't matter how you win so long as you do, right?
Yeah, I thought it was a little bit silly of the Brumbies actually to be going for the drop goal from 40 out. I thought the Blues were under pressure and they just should have kept recycling. That's a long drop kick at the best of time and pretty happy to see Offer there. Was he onside? Who cares?
He was onside. You know, I was actually quite amazed about how fast he got out there and to stick his arms up like that. But sensational semi-final. I think the way the Brumbies sort of came back and got their game going in the end was a testament to sort of them. And you're right. I think if little Seal had to play that moment again, I think he'd want to sort of relive that and sort of recycle the ball and be a little bit patient about how they finished that game off.
Look, they've got some frustrations coming out of the Brumbies, but bottom line, they put themselves in a position to win the game. They were a man up. All they had to do was hold on to the ball and build pressure, force the Blues into giving away a penalty to give them a realistic shot of winning the game. Remember what the Blues did to the Brumbies this year? What they did is they got themselves in a position where they were going to win, and then Beauden Barrett drops back into the pocket. They had advantage anyway in that situation. That's experience that they didn't have. And I think Noah Lolosio is going to be disappointed with himself because you think about it too, it's got to go 45 metres, Mills, so to travel that, you've got to kick it low.
Yeah. You
can't kick it up. It gave Offa Tuangafasi, who's not the tallest man in the world, every opportunity to charge it down. They missed their chance, just like the Chiefs missed their chance in Christchurch.
Well, for the Blues, they were led superbly, weren't they, JK, by Beauden Barrett. He just keeps getting better every single week, and the wins keep ticking over. 15 straight now heading into this final.
Yeah, look, I think when you look at players as good as Beauden, you're always looking for parts of their game that they're trying to improve on. And I haven't seen him this direct, Mills, at the defensive line for a long, long time, and you cannot run off him. But he's actually accelerating with some real determination into that defence line. And I think that puts real pressure on the defence line, which helps outside. So, when you talk about a triple threat, that kick, pass and go, he's really doing the go part better than I've seen him do it for a long time.
That inside channel and sort of chopping back, you know, the whole night he was sort of on for it. And then a little wee hole sort of opened up and he just explodes through there. Well, it wasn't as if it was like he only done it once or twice. He kept doing it every single, majority of the time he got the ball. But then when he was really potent was when he went out a bit wider. So he's in great form at the moment. Looking forward to that battle in itself. I mean, there's battles right across the board.
I think what you have to do is look at not that in isolation. I think you combine that with Stephen Perofeta and how he's played in 2022, because you're only going to do that if you're Beauden Barrett, if you've got confidence that someone else is going to step up. So he clearly trusts Perofeta. He trusts Christie. The fact the moment he takes it to the line and he's taken out of phase play, they've got the confidence that they can keep their continuity going. So for me, I look at these two guys in tandem, the way that Perofeta did the job at 10, and then JK, when he slipped back to fullback, this guy, I expect, I don't know this, to be named tomorrow in the All Blacks, given on his form and the fact that he is the next best option at 10 after the two we know.
Is Damien McKenzie available?
I don't think he is at this stage.
I'm just looking at your list over there. Haven't you got your list there, mate?
I've got a question for both of you. Do you think that Beauden should kick with the All Blacks, and do you think the defensive pattern that the Blues use would help the backfield kicking game if Geordie plays fullback?
The way you swap around, the way they brought Stephen. And look, he missed a tackle early in that game, Mills, but that wasn't par for the course. That's not the way his season has played out. He's been very good in the front line. I like the option because you get the sense, the feeling is for the next level it's going to be Geordie Barrett. Not a bad option to bring him in the front line, right? Geordie Barrett and bring Beauden to the back. I think it could work.
Well, he's solid, isn't he? I mean, as Geordie, you know, he's a very handy defender. So why wouldn't you? And the way that you know, Beauden's been playing at the back, he's been pretty potent too.
Well, for the Brumbies head coach, Dan McCullough, that was his final game in charge after 9 years. It wasn't the fairy tale finish he was after, and he was pretty hot in the press conference afterwards.
What is the game doing around cards? Well, Len Ikitau sitting in the grandstand for an accident last week. Hasn't been able to play, possibly won't play against England in the first test match. We've got a guy tipped on his head, we've got head-on-head contact. One's a yellow, one's a red. And I'm not complaining just about tonight, but as a game, what direction are we going here? Because players don't know what's yellow, what's red. I don't know what it is. So how's Joe Public going to have any idea? So I'm not sitting here saying that Blues boys should have been red carded or whatever, but as a game, it's really hard to follow at the moment in terms of which way it may go. If someone throws a stiff arm or punches someone or eye gouges someone or stands on someone, throw the book at them. No one wants players getting concussed and that sort of thing, but there's accidents and it's, Anyway, we're going off track a little bit here.
He's passionate, isn't he? But JK, does he have a point?
Oh, he has a massive point. He's got a massive point. I mean, that's a red card every day of the week. We've known for 100 million years you can't hook your hand anymore behind the knee because that tips. Two of them in the tackle lands on his head. That's a red card every day of the week. Has been for the last 2 years, and that inconsistency, I don't know how we do it. I thought Ben O'Keefe had a very good game. I don't think it's a referee problem. It's just I don't know how we're going to get this inconsistency out of our game, Mills. I mean, and then we look at Matera the night before, stays down with a head knock, doesn't come off. And then a little bit later we get someone coming off because he's gone down with a head knock. It's the consistency we need to see, and I don't know how we do that.
And there's so many different examples. And I think what Dan's talking about also is when guys have red carded and throwing the book at them, there's also inconsistency when it comes to, citing them and things like that, and sort of how many weeks they get. I mean, you compare the Nipo Laulala situation to Caleb Clark. So all of a sudden, both got the same time, but then you throw in a coaching course in there and then it's mitigated or, it comes down. So I think there's a lot in there. There's a lot of inconsistency right across, whether it's on the field, off the field as well. And that's perhaps where the frustration is. Well, it is where the frustration is.
Is a centralised bunker the idea with the same people making the same decisions? Is it a human error?
Look, there's a lot of factors in play here. And clearly, I cannot believe that Kurt Eklund hasn't been cited. There's no sightings out of the game last night. For tipping a guy and dropping him on his head, part of that. I find that surprising. That's no disrespect to Kurt, but surely, given what we've seen through the course of this season, I mean, bottom line, that's incredibly frustrating for me as someone watching the game going, to your point, there'll be players who may miss out, Pablo Matero being one, because he received the red card, automatically goes to the judicial system, and he may miss because of that.
I need to get the stick figures back out.
Oh, no. We don't want JK drawing again. I do want to talk about one thing, though, and particularly in and around the game, is the fact there was some controversy coming out of the Brumbies. They've been blowing up, Kirsty, on this, haven't they? The bottom line, talking about whether or not this should have been a penalty to the Brumbies. Luke Romano takes the ball in, then the Brumbies player's on the ball. Now, I'm saying he wins the ball here. Smart player doesn't even try to win the ball. He tries to get a penalty, because that's what the law allows you to do. And to me, I've put the law up there, right, because this is where the game for me has changed, Mills. There's law 15, ruck, okay, 3. Players involved in all stages of the ruck must have their head and shoulders no lower than the hips. That's the thing they've forgotten for 25 years. That's what they've forgotten for 25 years, and that's why we've got the game we've got right now. Remember when you used to put bodies into rucks and clean it out? Counter-rucking is something we do right now. Bottom line, because we've allowed players to put their hands on the ball, ironically, it's because the way the Brumbies played, you got into a point where they were sealing things off and you tried to get it with hands. The hands are the problem for a referee for me, JK.
I had this argument in 2003 after the World Cup when we all got invited to go to World Rugby to discuss the game. And I said, for me, it's hands in the ruck, always has been. Like, why are we letting that happen? And they said, because rugby has to be a fair contest for the ball.
Yeah, you can have a contest over the ball. We do it up for a scrum. We do it in a maul. It's about winning the space. Bottom line, when you get into this picture, it makes it incredibly hard for the referees to make clear and obvious decisions, because there are too many people and too many bodies and too difficult parts to see. I just think, for me, that's what's clouded it for them. If the ball...
Kills a lot of really good attacking players. Right?
Well, when you look at that, then, well, doesn't that answer the question? Ben O'Keefe let the play go on because of
absolutely.
that. He's seen that as it, and like the downside of it is the moment in time that it sort of happened. You know, everyone was blown up for across the ditch for a penalty. But if you look at a situation like this, you know, 40 minutes or 50-odd minutes into a game, I mean, play on. Let's keep the flow going.
Look, there was a big game on Friday as well. Some big decisions made. 3 yellow cards that led to a red for one of the players. 222 tackles, record-breaking made from the Crusaders. And the sledging, it's already started, JK. They've posted a picture saying, we're coming.
Yep. And look, they'll be tired. They tackled 450 million tackles they made. I've personally felt that the Chiefs blew it, Mills. I thought that early, once you're not getting across the line, why wouldn't you take your 3 points? Another thing that annoys me, and if anyone from World Rugby is watching, or my mate Bryce Lawrence, 3 penalties in a row, yellow card, because then they'll start 8 penalties, right? You got to go, wow, I've got to wait 8 penalties for a yellow card. And I know the rule says it has to be the same repeated penalty, but that's just a joke. If you're an intelligent player, you're going to be trying to cheat down there.
I didn't realise it had to be the same. I thought it was all, you know... So
it's not the same.
It's not the same, right? So I think you're right. I think it needs to be like that. And I mean, regardless of... I mean, the area that it's in, something far more than just wait till 8 penalties before a yellow card happens. You know, it needs to happen.
Look, Scott Robinson talked about it after the game, talked about the fact if you want to stop the opposition, and let's be very, very clear here, when you get to the knockout stages of games, of tournaments, it changes. Whether it be Rugby World Cups, whether it be competitions here or overseas, when it's the knockout stages...
Well, that's wrong in itself.
No, but that has never changed. You know why? Because you want to keep it close, right? Yeah. You don't want to let the opposition...
Who wants to keep it close?
The two teams are thinking to yourself, if you're a defensive team which has got a strong defence, you want to keep the scoreboard close, because you bottom line know that if they're allowed to play and get confidence and score tries, you can't make that gap up. The Crusaders have been the best at this through 5 years at least in this competition, and Scott Robinson talked about it. If you want to stop the opposition, you slow the ball down. You stop the speed of the ball.
Is that translation for cheat?
No, it's not cheating. It's putting the pressure, to your point, back on the referees. Putting the pressure on the referees to make the decisions at the breakdown. And notice when they got a yellow card, did they change their behaviour? And did they get another yellow card because of it? No, they didn't.
But OK, here's my question. The question I get back to, Mills. If that's the case, and you've got a team like the Crusaders, on Saturday night, did the Blues take 3 points every penalty?
Well, they need to. I think when it comes to this sort of team, you do need to take those points. I think where the Chiefs lacked it, that was perhaps fool's gold. They scored earlier on and thought they could actually, try and recycle the ball. But the other team adapts, and that's what you're going to get in finals football.
Peter Gus Sowakula. Over the line. Over the line.
Should have scored.
Just before half-time.
I don't know what happened there.
Just before. Quinn Tupaia throws it over the top. It wasn't like they didn't create enough opportunities. That's why they're bitterly disappointed.
When you think about it, I mean,
they did enough to win the game.
They were on attack that whole time down in the Crusaders, 22. The Crusaders turn it over, bang, down the other end, and what happens? The Crusaders score, and that's how clinical these guys are.
Let's give them some credit, the Crusaders, because they were good, and this was the last chance to stand out before the All Blacks squad is named tomorrow. Cullen Grace for you was one of the big winners.
Well, he put himself in the conversation, absolutely, in terms of his performance and the fact we've had a lot of question marks of what our future looks like at number 8. If Ardie Savea is an answer, but I was more about the fact we know how good he was a couple of years ago, JK. He had the breakout season. A lot quieter last year, but he seems to be healthy and strong again, and he's doing some of the little things you like to see from a number 8. I just think to myself, it's nice to have someone putting up their hand on the biggest stage. I put a lot of stock on how teams and players play at this time of the year.
Well, I always think you can play yourself out of the All Blacks, and I don't think that Peter Gus Sowakula did himself any favours the other night. Hesitated when that was a set try. I don't know why. And to be fair on the man, he hasn't had the breaks like the All Blacks have. He's carried the ball all year. He's been amazing. I sort of hope he makes it, just because I think he brings us something different. But I think the two in-form 8s right now are Hoskins and Cullum, and I think they are both amazing options for us because I think they're a little bit different. Cullum, you've got that line-out option that you always love, because if you're talking Ardie, he probably is not as good a line-out option as Cullum, and I think Hoskins has just really played really well this season, getting his shoulder on. So I think Peter Gus probably is now under pressure when I thought he was going to be a bolter.
Well, we'll find out tomorrow, won't we? We are going to talk about the Chiefs now. I know you're saying they'll be very disappointed they let that game slip, Mills. But if we look at the 2022 season as a whole, they finished third. They got a home quarter-final. What sort of rating do you give them?
Oh, look, I think they finished off well to get to where they were. I mean, they started exceptionally, with some great performances. They really hit the sort of a bit of a patch there, and that sort of was injuries that hindered them. And injuries to key players. I mean, you're talking about Retalix, your Weber, when Anton came back. Those are key men to lose, and they just lost a little bit of momentum. And also guys that are on the fringes as well, the Jacobs and stuff. So when you look at that's a lot of backbone to lose. I think in terms of your squad, they've still got a pretty young squad. Their backs, a lot of inexperienced guys there. And when you think about it, the two drivers that were vying for the position, I'm talking about Brennan and Josh Ioane, who suffered a little bit of injury too to his ribs. I think to get to where they got to, they'll be satisfied with that. But certainly they could have won. They could have won in the weekend, and that's possibly for next year going forward. That'll give them some confidence.
You're smiling.
No, I'm just interested to see what JK thinks before.
I was just actually having a bit of a sad moment thinking about Shaun Wainui.
Yeah.
May he rest in peace, but they really missed him. Played 12, played 13, played on the wing. When they had injuries, he was the type of guy that would really step up and play amazingly for them. I agree with Mills. I think, considering the injuries they had to big names, they had a great season, I believe. And Peter Gus, like I said, I don't know if he'll make it after the weekend, but he's had an amazing season. So for me, I think they'd put a tick next to it.
No.
Is the depth in their squad big enough?
I don't think they put a tick to it because they're good enough to win the comp.
Yeah,
they knew they were good enough to win the competition. They competed with the best sides. When they had their injuries, they struggled. Look, Peter Gus Sowakula in March and April and halfway through May was the form number 8. He'd done some really wonderful things, but I think in some ways he may have ended up having to play so many minutes.
Yeah. Luke
Jacobson was out, Sam Cane was out. The fact that he then had to have so much workload and ended up almost carrying too much. And remember what happened to Akira Ioane a couple of years ago when he had that down year? He played every minute for the Blues. I think for Peter Gus, all of a sudden it caught up with him in the last little bit. I couldn't harm his effort on the weekend. He kept putting his hand up. But bottom line, I think overall they would see this as a a big disappointment and a failure because their team was good enough. The side that was selected on the weekend was good enough to beat the Crusaders. If you're good enough to beat the Crusaders, you're good enough to go on and beat the Blues.
And that's where I think I totally agree with that sort of analysis in terms of Peter Gus-Solkulla. A lot of expectation was on him. So when you go into big time games and you start playing that sort of same way, you know, put the onus on one player, and he's a key player who's carried the team the whole year. That's a lot of burden on one sort of guy, and so I hope the coaches take that into consideration. When you look at Cullen Grace, he's been out with injuries, and there's so many other X-factor sort of threats around the park that all of a sudden he pops up, does two magical things, and now he's the best. You know, I mean, and so that's the calibre they had, and I feel for Peter Gus-Solkulla because he's had an outstanding season. Considering
the injuries they had to key players, who are the big movers this year? What names stand out? The Tokiahos, the Aiden Rosses. Who stood out to you, JK?
Oh, I think Tokiaho's the best hooker.
Right now. Hands down.
If you talk about Peter Gus carrying, this guy the other night, I don't know how many carries he had, but he is really, really good. He gives that second effort there. He's strong. I can't remember him throwing any bad throws, although I don't take too much notice of that, you guys, as you know. But like the other night against the Crusaders, he was in everything. And I think right now, if you're picking super form on who starts against Ireland, I know they don't do that, but he would definitely be considered for me. Oh, he's progressing. I love the way he's come about his game, and you know his lineouts are coming on. He's always pretty strong. Tupou Vaa'i for me, the fact that they actually, you know, to have him at 6 and stand up as well when again that burden of expectation goes on him. I like what they found there. And where would they have been without Alex Nankerville?
Yeah,
because every time they had an injury or a challenge in the back line, he had to put up his hand and go, you know what, I'll be on the wing, I'll be in the midfield. I think he's just one of those complementary players at Super Rugby level that is incredibly valuable.
Well, we've got our two teams for the decider, the Blues taking on the Crusaders. Blues fans have waited nearly 20 years for this kind of final, but this rivalry between the two teams, it started back in 1998. Remember it?
Flynn to Mertens, punches it forwards, bounces up to Newell, it's loose. It's a try! And very nearly again. Now Muliaina frees it up. Here's a chance. Gear. He's got Howard on the inside. And Doug Howard. He's run to the touchline. The game is over. The Blues have won the Super 12 title in 2003.
Well, every Jersey Tales is special and unique in its own way, isn't it, Mills? And there were some lovely stories about the connections you make.
Yeah, absolutely, and nice to see him sort of share those sort of moments as well. Interesting to, you know, hear him sort of speak about the white jersey, but also I think what sort of I took out of that was the friendships you make off the field. And he's very, you know, connected to Michael Hooper and that Wallaby jersey.
He's a legend, man. This is Kieran Reid. This is a guy who's won 2.
He's thin, eh?
He's a legend.
He's thin.
Not bad when you can pick a Rugby World Cup, 2 Rugby World Cup sort of
exactly.
Which jersey do I pull up? A World Cup.
Well, talking about the Wallabies jersey, Dave Rennie has shown us his cards because his 35-man squad taking on England in the July internationals. Here it is. There are 6 uncapped players in this, 3 who are currently playing in Japan, and a couple of big names that aren't there as well. What do we think of this team, Mills?
That's an exciting looking squad. You know, I like that. He's got a really nice balance in terms of you know what he's named. Obviously, being a back, there's some real firepower out there. But I also love the fact that he's you know, guys in the front. Jeff is they've really stood up during the Super season.
Yeah, look, I mean the performance of the Brumbies itself in Super Rugby, taking the Blues right there, I think is really, really encouraging for them. I think bottom line last year he gave some players an opportunity. JK, he got to find out more and more about his squad. To Dave Rennie, look, he's got his 3 overseas players. Quade Cooper is back and hanging around. Look, he was great last year. James O'Connor, they're 2 premium options at first 5 for me going forward. I know Lolasio's got a bit of work to do. But look, what we've always said, JK, is the fact that regardless of how they perform in Super Rugby, they find 30 guys when they put on the jersey who can be competitive. But they only play the All Blacks twice this year. They've got to win both if they want to get Bledisloe. it's a big ask.
Oh, look, I think this is a very, very good side. I think we've seen the influence of Dave Rennie through Australian rugby in general. He'll be stoked that the Waratahs have actually come through and starting to produce some young guys. The Brumbies, you know, made the playoffs. The Reds were good at times. So I've seen a re-emergence of the Australian sides, and with Dave Rennie at the helm, this is going to be one hell of a 2 Test match series. And I think they are building really nicely to the World Cup. I think Quade Cooper has matured and playing his best rugby. Karabete, I think, has been outstanding if you watched him play in Japan. So I think this is going to be huge. I think that they will be our biggest opposition all year.
Well, we have been talking about it for 6 weeks, and there is just one more sleep before Ian Foster reveals his 36-man squad.
Kia ora tātou, everyone. Welcome to New Zealand Rugby House for the announcement of the New Zealand Rugby squad.
It's an exciting year for the All Blacks, and indeed for the whole of New Zealand.
Without further ado, let's get underway. The All Blacks team is...
The team is...
The team is...
Richie McCaw.
Ball infield to Richie McCaw. Storming up to the 22. McCaw!
Daniel Carter.
Another drop kick coming up on the left boot this time. And he gets it.
Kieran Reid.
Charging onto this goes Reid. Kieran Reid.
Malili Muliaina.
Some support from Muliaina. Another one.
Ma'anonu.
Here's Ma'anonu slipping through.
Bowden Barrett.
Closing. Bowden Barrett. Goodness me, that is brilliant.
Adi Savia.
Under the post. That is enjoyable to watch. You won't see much better.
Aaron Smith.
Nice 8-9 work, and don't underestimate how good the pass is from Aaron Smith.
Sonny Bill Williams.
Close to the line with his power. Very hard man to stop.
Sam Kane.
Strides out of the first tackle.
Richie Moanga.
Intercept Moanga. Under the bar he goes.
Patrick Tuipulotu.
Tui Pulotu bashes his way through.
Caleb Clark.
It's still going. Amazing run from the young winger.
Tupu Vai. Rico Ioane.
I'm just over the moon. Haven't stopped smiling since.
It's on the fly. Away to Ioane. Try number 13 for the All Blacks.
TJ Perenara.
They've all worked very hard to be in the best possible shape for the big challenge ahead. And they will go knowing that all of New Zealand is firmly behind them. All of us wish them the very best.
Yes, tomorrow, 11:45 a.m. on the All Blacks YouTube channel, we go again. We find out who the 36 players are. Names will be read out for the very first time. Who will they be? Whose names will be read for the first time tomorrow, Jeff?
The first time?
For the first time.
Well,
Who will be some of the newbies?
Well, you've got a list, mate. Like, you've only got to come with a list.
Oh,
Look at that. He's even typed it up.
This is
Typed it up. Show everybody.
No. I just want. I'm trying to
Or is
work
it,
out
did
how
you
wrong
steal
I'm
that
going
off
to be.
Ian Foster
I
last night when he
haven't
wasn't
stolen it off
looking?
anybody at all. I tell you what, I've gathered all the information. I've made all these phone calls about people I think can value their input. Notice I didn't ring you, JK. The bottom line, I knew you'd give us on the show. Is there going to be a newbie? I'm just not sure if there's anyone that put up their hand and say, you know what, who hasn't been there before, who hasn't been inside the environment. Remembering that they used about 50 players last year,
There's
Mills,
definitely
right?
going to be one.
You reckon there's going to be one?
Fakatava's going to make it, isn't he? I mean, I think he's going to be.
Hold on, let me just check my list.
Yeah, there you go. Put him on there. Put him on there, mate. Hey.
You don't go to the IRB and spend money on a court case getting him released early without him in the side. So he's in the side for sure. I get that. Perenara's injured. The only thing I think Fakatava and Perenara are the two difference around what we're looking for. Impact, a bit more physical. That loose forward player compared to, Aaron Smith's injured, so I think that...
Hold on, let's think about this, Kirsty, right? This is to play Ireland, right? The first 3 Test matches of the year in July in New Zealand.
Oh, he doesn't play.
Okay, He doesn't play.
No, he doesn't play.
Well,
mate.
hold on. So someone gets injured in the first game, and then all of a sudden
plays.
Then he plays.
Yeah.
And I think to myself, if you're trying to get through these first 3 Test matches, you got to go with what you trust and know. And the 3 guys last year they had in their environment, Aaron Smith, Finlay Christie, and Brad Weber, did the job for them. They've got loyalty, they've got trust in those players. I'm not saying Folau Fakatava can't be an All Black in the future.
Yeah, but 2 of them are injured, mate.
Wait, this is 3 weeks away we're talking about it. Aaron Smith's going to be good and ready to go.
Yeah, but Fakatava is going to be selected, and they'll be hoping that they don't get...
Who have you selected instead of Fakatava?
What's that? I've taken the 3 that I said.
Oh, OK.
I've taken the 3 halfbacks. We're in their environment last year. For this series against Ireland, remembering that's what this selection is. It's for this test series, nothing else.
You've mentioned the injuries. There's some big-name injured All Blacks out at the moment, and something that came out during the week as well. Ethan Blackadder, not only out for Super Rugby, but actually out for the entire year. He's undergoing surgery. Aaron Smith, groin injury. Sam Whitelock, unsure of how he's going to pull up with that thumb injury. Cody Taylor, I think, was it ribs? Calf injury.
It could be a leg injury, so you're waiting on him. Caleb
and front rowers hate a calf.
We haven't seen Caleb Clark. Does Caleb make this team?
So for some of those players, they're out for the season. Joe Moody, out for the season. We just don't know about Caleb Clark. We don't know about Aaron Smith. So whether or not they extend their squad out...
If he's fit,
But if you pick Aaron Smith with a groin injury...
But
you're picking Caleb Clark.
That's been 2 weeks already, though. That's been 2 weeks. And hold on, here's a guy that's played how many Test matches for the All Blacks versus Caleb Clark, who didn't play at all last year. And don't get me wrong, the signs and what he can bring...
So he's not on your list?
Right now? No, I've got other players who are on my list. But that's not to say I can understand.
Mark Talia?
Tell us who's on your list.
Now, you brought my attention to that this morning, Mills. Yeah. You threw that in the phone call, out of left field. And I tell
Give
you
him an opportunity, eh, Mills?
I tell you what, here's one guy. Here's one guy. Is he on my list?
No.
He is actually on my list.
He's on your
now.
list.
Well, why are you hiding your list? Just show us. Just read out your list.
JK, you can't be disappointed with Mark Talia, right?
No, I think he's been one of the informed players, and he brings something different. He's got beautiful feet. Look, if you're a dancer, he could have been a dancer. He should be on Dancing with the Stars.
Some good players are going to miss out.
Through
some really good players are going to miss out.
Like who?
Well,
if he's not there, if Caleb Clark's not there, there's going to be some good players who miss out. They've already said that, the coaches. Bottom line, they used how many players last year? About 45. They're only picking 36 players. That's all they can pick.
We've got more than 36 good players, don't we, Mills?
Oh, we've got plenty of players. But if you look at the wing position, what you're talking about, if we look at the guys who are in that squad last year, I mean, if you're going to swap a Talia coming in to be named, you'd probably say a George Bridge, who hasn't fired a shot this year. He's been really under form, so you put him in that position. Where do they play? Rico Ioane, is he now a centre? So now there's probably an
totally Millsy.
Well, there you go. There's now another opening for the wing spot. So do you put someone like a Whainganuku in there?
No, Will Jordan's a winger.
So who comes in for Ethan Blackadder?
That's a very good question. I think you go, for me, they'll pick Popoli'i.
Of course, absolutely.
Right? And Kane.
Yes.
Got that. Savia.
Yeah.
Grace. Ioane. And Hoskins and Satutu.
So you're missing out. So you haven't actually gone like for like. So no Luke Jacobson in your squad.
Well, I'd probably put him in there, but I don't.
How many big's your squad? I mean, how many?
I pick whoever I want. I pick whoever I want.
That's right. It's like you.
No, but I pick my 6 Lucy's. What do you think the split?
You've named 7.
What do you think the split will be?
I think I've gone to 21-15. 21 forwards.
Can I throw a name out there? A new name. Levi Armour has ruffled feathers during his season for Moana Pacifica, the standout for them. He wasn't named in the Samoan squad to play in July. Will he make this All Blacks team? Is he a bolt out of the blue?
Please tell me no. Are we even talking about this? What has Moana Pacifica been created for, Mills? If you pick him in the All Blacks out of Moana Pacifica, just stop Moana Pacifica now. Are we kidding, or am I wrong?
Well, he's eligible for Fiji as well. He's eligible for Australia, I think, as well.
He could be.
I think he's eligible. So all of a sudden, I hope that's not a conversation that's been had, Mills. The fact that...
Has he been shoulder tapped?
Well, I think what you've got to realise is there's different aspects between all of those teams. You know, monetary comes down to it too. You know, it's the difference between going to a nation that you have to pay for compared to a nation that's going to pay for you. And I'm talking about the Pacific Islands. So he's got big decisions to make in that area. If the All Blacks have come knocking, or you know, that's
so why don't the IRB start paying these? Why don't the IRB start paying these players then? Because they give the money to the islands, so just pay the players. I mean, I remember talking to, and I won't name him, a guy who's still waiting for his payment from 2011 World Cup. So, like, if he's going to be picked for the All Blacks and he does it for money, good on him. I'm all for it. But I thought Moana Pacifica was created to build stronger Pacific Nations sides. Surely, am I wrong?
Yeah. If I go back to the Old Moore situation, look at where Fiji are at the moment. I mean, he's got a hard decision there because Fiji, they're on top of their game, man. And you see the draw, and also last year when they, really challenged the All Blacks compared to Samoa. So that's probably what's affected his decision into making it.
You cannot argue with anyone though trying to look after their family. If that's
I've got no issues with
their future.
But if he's available for Fiji and he plays for Fiji and he plays well, he'll go to France and earn more than he does playing for the All Blacks because he'll be a third rung All Black. So from 250 to 350 or 400, right? And he'll probably be doing that. And if he does need to look after his family, he'll stay a few years and then go and look after his family. So I reckon he's better picking someone like Fiji or even Australia maybe, and then going. If it's about money, and I've got no issues with that. Look after your family first, guy.
I don't think he's in the mix. We've got an influx of centres that we've got to look at the moment, and I honestly don't think he's in the mix in terms of what the selectors are looking at.
We're already leaving people out as it is, aren't we? Just one more name, and just say yes or no. Stephen Perofeta, does he make it?
Yes.
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 Interesting. OK, well, tomorrow, as we say, the 36-man All Blacks squad will be announced at 11:45 a.m. Make sure you jump on to the All Blacks YouTube to be able to catch all the action. Trivia time. You're looking at me funny.
I thought that was it.
Discussion.
I thought that was the trivia.
I wanted to get to centres. What about the centres?
Oh, we'll get to that later.
Can we get to that?
I tell you what, I'll be so.
We don't have
I don't want to do trivia this week.
I'm just
doing
What
trivia.
happens next? What happens next, JK?
It's not what happens next. It's a proper question.
Oh,
We've come back to the proper
question.
question just for you. OK, if you're ready, you can play at home too,
Who was the
remember.
centre?
How many tests did Daniel Carter play?
Oh.
Win. How many did he win in his
how
All
many
Blacks
did he
career?
win?
Yeah. How many did he win? Sorry.
Most of them.
Work that one out at home, and while you're having a think, we have exclusive access. It is Dan Carter All Access.
Here, boys. You don't need a phone. Hey, Lukey. Good night. I used to have the bird's nest back in the day. Yeah, no, I did that. Did you ever do that one? Yeah. I always wanted a little bit higher. I used to do that too. Yeah, I was the same. So you were a big thing on the valve as well, obviously, where you wanted to go?
Just to find. Don't forget we started with a leather ball, so it was lace, but same principle. But just, mate, it's more for this than actually to find it. It's just part of the mental side of it, I reckon. Yeah. Do that. I felt like it was straight, but I always knew it was.
Me too. I was like, I put the ball straight up, and they're like, no, you don't.
No, but I wanted it forward because I wanted to get this point.
Open up the sweet
spot. So, mate, some balls work better than others.
Yeah. Hey, you're way back there. Get out! Get out! Get out! Yes!
All Access Dan Carter. Next Tuesday, Sky Sport 1.
Welcome back into the breakdown. Well, while these guys have racked their brains, how many tests did Dan Carter win? That is our trivia question for today. I'm sure you've got a few more clues. JK?
95.
Mills?
96.
I went 99.
Who's right? Let's find out. 99.
That is a straight guess.
Yeah, mine too.
And do you know what? Because I
Bingo.
thought, it sounded like it was a situation where it's desperately unlucky not to get 100. So
What did he play total? 112?
Yeah, 112.
I was looking
That's
at you
not
for
bad,
confirmation, Mills. Look at Richie McCaw, 131 wins.
Well, what was the draw? That's a good one.
mind you, they all played for the same team, like the same era.
Excuse me, I don't care. Can we get back to centre?
Oh, I knew you were going to... we spent most of the break talking about centre, then we're just talking about the
cricket. And you still won the trivia.
Well, yeah,
because you heard it here first. Rieko Ioane is now, Mr. Wilson, your preferred centre?
Yes, he is, actually.
Thank you.
Yes, he is. And that's on the back of the way that he has played through Super Rugby Pacific.
Yeah.
I think he's played really, really well. And I think it's been helpful, the fact that he's had a combination with Roger Tuivasa-Sheck where he's had to step up, take responsibility. Look, if you look at those inside three right now, they've been impressive. So I'm not going to...
So how many total centres are you picking? Do you
why
want
are you
mine
quizzing
first?
me? You go
You've got it written down, mate.
Yeah, but that's because I've written
You're the most prepared man I know.
What? I mean, that's all I've done.
So does Goodhue make it?
What's that?
Does Goodhue make it?
Jack Goodhue is the one player at the moment I have sitting outside. But you've got to remember, I've just made this team up myself. So, guys, I'm not a selector. I mean, this is bottom line. Look at the players.
I know, but
does he make your team, JK? Does Jack Goodhue make your team?
Yes, he does make my team.
But hold on, how many are you taking?
Only because...
You're taking all of them.
Yeah, well, I'm taking... he makes it... I don't think his form's back to where it was. He makes it because he covers 12 and 3rd and he's played there before. I do Ioane Goodhue as your centres, Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, and then...
There's a new name.
And then...
You David Havili?
Yeah, I've got David Havili.
And you got Quinn Tupaia?
No.
You've got no Quinn Tupaia?
No. I think Goodhue makes it.
I personally think Goodhue's a second five, and we've got too many second fives to carry. So I mean, you've even got to chuck Barrett in there. So where do you actually take that from? So what do you do is less outsides, and so you probably go for a pedal fitter that sort of covers fullback as well as Jordan. If you're going to put Barrett in the mix in second five, I've got Barrett, Havili, Roger, Tupaia. For me, Havili and Rico Ioane start. The centre situation becomes a real issue now. Do the selectors look at some new blood, you know, like a Whainganuku or Umanga Jensen? And I think that now's the time to actually start looking at something like that, because when you look at those two players, Whainganuku's got X factor. He can also play at centre, but also, you know, if you breed him at wing, but if you breed him at centre a little bit, give him a little bit of the taste, he's got X factor. With Umanga Jensen, he's solid, but he brings something.
He's been injured though. You just don't know.
He has, but he also can go, you know, the same as what Goodhue can bring. So I think those guys bring totally something different. But I think Rico definitely starts there for me, but it's the vision. What vision have they got in terms of the guys that back them up?
Well, you guys have missed half of the Crusaders All Black contingent. That will be playing in the finals. It is going to be fireworks. Watch out, JK.
I'm there.
Watch out.
Well, that's the interesting part about it, right?
Fireworks.
I mean, they named the team before the final of Super Rugby Pacific. Tell you what, there's going to be some seriously motivated players.
There is going to be. Do not miss it next week at Eden Park, of course. We've got quick hits. Once again, we hit these guys with a couple of quick-fire topics. First and foremost, the Black Ferns unbeaten in the Pacific 4 tournament, 28-0. They've just beaten Canada. That is a big performance, and the last 2 weeks have been big under Wayne Smith.
Yeah, heading in the right direction. Wayne Smith is a genius. I saw a little bit of the game while we were here. Saw some extra stuff from Ruby, kicks over the top, so... he'll be challenging them all to get better, and what I liked, Mills, was their defensive pattern, getting up and smashing people.
Good stepping stone. I mean, you know, given the disruptions they have and also what's been surrounding them, I think it's really good. They're building a nice culture. You know, they're getting some nice, awesome systems in place, so building in the right direction. But they've got some big games coming up.
Perfect for them today. Got the result they desperately needed. I thought it was a nice way for them to continue on their development.
Well, there's been rugby going on the other side of the world as well. The United Rugby Championships for the first year that the South African teams have been involved. Remember them? Remember when they used to play in Super Rugby? They've got 2 teams in the finals, Jeff, in their first year. How much do we miss them?
What we do know now is that's why we want a World Club Championship, because we want the best teams to come together at some point in the international calendar so we can see exactly how far they have come. And this is a big test for what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't think they would have anticipated this. This is not the way they wanted it to play out.
No, I wouldn't have thought that either, but also the Irish coaches would have loved it anyway. They get another week to prepare their guys. So it's great to see the South Africans doing well over there and progress to that final.
We don't need them. They can stay in the north. I don't really care. Bring in some Pacifica sides. Keep growing Asia Pacific. And as long as we've got South Africa, who we love in the championship, to make sure that we're not getting too far away from our foe, bring it on.
We've managed to squeeze a lot into this program, but just finally, there's rumours of a big shake-up at the Highlanders next season as well.
Well, the fact they're looking at their coaching structure, Chris Boyd's finished his tenure over in the Northern Hemisphere. Word that he might be coming back to New Zealand. Whether or not he's the right guy to go down there, they're looking at possibly having a director of rugby situation. That'll play out, but they need to make those decisions quickly because you've got to prepare your roster for next season.
Who's going to win the final? The decider.
Can I just add
next
to
week.
that? I think their problem is the cattle. I think they need to...
That's why you need to get the coaching thing sorted out quickly.
You need to start actually attracting some bigger names down there.
Go the Blues!
I'll finish with
Don't
the
worry.
heart.
Just for you, mate.
Thanks, Millsy.
Jeff, the neutral voice here. Who wins
Neutral
the decider?
voice. I am from the South Island. You do realise that. But bottom line, I picked the Blues at the start of this season.
No, you did not.
I did so.
You did not.
First top.
You picked the Highlanders every week. You never picked the Blues. He's kidding himself.
Well, obviously, it's 4
There's a bottle of wine on that too, if I remember correctly.
But you didn't show up last week. You weren't here.
Are you sitting on the fence, Kirsty?
Well, the Crusaders are going to watch this and use this as motivation. I'd be
I
careful,
know,
but
I'm
there are
nervous.
so
Kirsty,
many
nervous, man.
Who are you
storylines.
picking?
Leon McDonald, Scott Robertson, Richie Mo'unga, Bowden Barrett. You have to watch
Pick your
it
team.
from Eden
Who
Park.
have you got?
The Blues. You forced me.
Katoa, Aere mai ki o Kotahi, Christchurch, the weekend set for an explosive start. This defence, though, has just been phenomenal. Crusaders trying to lift the level. Step through. Moana floats upward, and Callum Gross is in for a second. The Crusaders are into their 16th final. Barrett slipping tackles, offloads it away, Perofeta, and he's over. It's Talia who scores. Banks, oh, good tackle made by Bowden Barrett, bowls him into touch. It's all over. And the Kiwis get their dream final. It's the Blues against the Crusaders next week at Eden Park.
Breakdown is brought to you by Nurofen Zavance. Available every day at Chemist Warehouse.